little bit early, but thankfully I brought my team who bought me a coffee. Coffee's for closers. So, I don't know whether we can get that to disappear. I got it. So first and foremost, I recognize quite a few faces in the room. Those of you who I don't know, I'm looking forward to getting to know. I brought most of my team here purely for moral support, and also so that instead of having to do a training session in my first week in the company, I can just do it here and get my training over and done with in the morning. So basically, I've been working in sales for quite a while. I want to give you a little bit about me. I've been over 13 years in sales. I started actually in what used to be called inside sales in Oracle in Dublin, in Ireland. The Irish are probably the best people to learn sales from because they have an incredible ability to drink and be incoherent most of the time anyway. So you learn how to tolerate the alcohol and actually be amiable, and people like you in it, and it was great fun. And I was working in what was called inside sales at the time, which I think is different to what inside sales is today. I was supporting sales reps in the office in the UK, and I was on the phone supporting them and doing the smaller deals. I quickly got promoted, moved back to London, worked financial services, wandered up and down the city of London selling very big license deals for Oracle to banks. My wife, who's American, wanted to make Aliyah. We made Aliyah about 9 years ago now. And I walked into ClickTel on day one. For people that don't know my story, I walked into ClickTel in a pinstripe suit in the middle of spring. And I get to this interview pouring with sweat. And I didn't realize it was a 12-man startup. And the VP sales is sitting there in like a cut-off vest top. The CEO is sitting there in a pair of jeans and a t-shirt, and I'm there in a pinstripe suit. And I had no idea what the Israeli startup ecosystem was like. Thankfully, ClickTel was an amazing company. There's a few people here who grew up through that time in ClickTel. It was an incredible experience. We grew it to about 25 million in revenue from about $500,000. I went to Apsi for a year, and then eventually I went to SimilarWeb, where I was for the last 3.5 years. Where I was heading international sales, so everything outside of the US and the EMEA market, had a very big business in Japan, very big business in China. And 4 days ago, I started at Lusha. If you haven't heard of Lusha, there we go. If you haven't heard of Lusha and you're a sales guy, then either we're doing a very bad job or you're doing a very bad job. So Lusha is the largest B2B contact search engine and database in the world. We have over 1.7 billion records, and we have the ability to show you the specific phone number and email of the person that you're looking for. So if you're an SDR, if you're a sales guy and you need to get hold of someone, the best tool and the best thing that you have as a salesperson is the telephone, and you can use it with us and we can help you do that. So that's Lusha, and actually, what's very exciting is we're giving away free Lusha credits. So Ellie asked me if we would put something together for you guys. If you haven't used Lusha before, we have cards, so find Vered or Tal at the back. They have credits. If you haven't used Lusha before and you sign up, you get 50 free credits. If you are an existing Lusha customer, we will still give you 20 free credits. So use it, enjoy it, and find the people that you want to speak to. So I'm the first speaker of the day, which is always a little bit daunting, but on the plus side, it means that no one has said what I'm going to say yet. However, some of you may already know it, and I think it's possible, because we're all sales guys, and we've all heard the same regular sales spiel about what we do and how we do it. So first and foremost, what is sales? Right? Why do we even exist? And I don't believe anyone in this room grew up thinking, when I grow up, I want to be a sales guy. No one did that, right? It's Purim today, all the kids dressing up as doctors and firemen and nurses and everything else. No one's dressing up as a sales guy because it's not particularly exciting, right? Generally, my friends think that what I do for a living is drink, which is somewhat true. My mum thinks that I'm incredibly important. Society, and I think this is the most significant one, society still views us as dodgy second-hand car sales guys, right? We're the guys who are there, who are trying to shift you a pile of crap, and it's just awful, right? Actually, the customers still think that you're trying to rip them off and just counting the money, Personally, I view myself as this hunter in the field trying to round up the cats. And actually, in reality, I spend most of the day, well, I used to spend most of the day staring at Salesforce thinking, how the hell am I going to hit my number? Now I spend most of the day staring at HubSpot thinking, I don't know what the hell's going on inside HubSpot. This is awful. I'm thinking, how the hell am I going to replace HubSpot in the next 3 days? So everyone loves to hate us. And I think it's one of the most significantly problematic things about being in sales, right? I love this cartoon because I think this is how, and by the way, just out of interest, how many founders are in the room? Okay, great. So I can be quite disparaging towards Israeli founders. In essence, people, the other question I've got, and I did this at another event, those people that are in sales, which is the majority here, how many people, when they're asked what they do, say that they're in sales? And how many people, so we're going to do it like this. How many people actually, when they're asked by someone who doesn't know them, how many people say they're in high tech? And how many people say they're in sales? Right? I would assume most people, we could do it, show of hands. If someone comes up to you and go, hey, what do you do? I work for a high tech company. Right? Most people. Right? Most people say they work for a high tech company. Why? Because we're embarrassed to be in sales. Because society still views us as dregs, right? They still view us the same way they view real estate agents, right? They still view us the same way they view really binary options, Forex. Like, they're viewing sales in the same capacity. And it's just not true. And I think part of it is actually this Dilbert cartoon, right? I'd like to accompany you on a sales call. You'll explain how the product works. This is how the techies in the company see us, right? They do all the hard work, and we collect the commission. Right? Now, I actually just wrote an article on LinkedIn about how commission isn't a bonus. It's not the title of my talk today, but it's worth reading. And the truth is, though, that everybody in the company is in sales. And everybody, no matter what they do, is actually in sales. If you're trying to impact someone, if you're trying to help someone make a decision, if you're trying to move someone to your opinion, you are in sales, whether you like it or not. And I think the difference between what we do and what everybody else does is we are supposed to be professionals. We're supposed to understand how to do sales at a professional level. And I believe there are significant differences to that. And I actually think that the whole change that we've seen, which I'm going to talk about a little bit, which SaaS and the internet and the modern world has changed, is that actually the art of sale has been diluted. The professionalism that actually was expected 10 years ago from a sales guy has been diluted because people think everyone should understand. Everyone needs to be professional. Everyone has to have the same understanding of the technical ability, of how this product has value, of the fact that we're all customer success reps. All of that is great, but we still need to be professionals in sales. So what is professional sales? So there are some basics, and I'm going to touch upon some of these as well. But ultimately, as salespeople, we are there to reduce the barrier for someone to buy. And part of that is transferring emotion, letting someone see it from our point of view, letting someone feel what we feel and understand what we understand. People still buy from people. I still believe that, and I know that there are companies out there that are expecting to replace salespeople with robots and telecalls and everything else. I think that people still buy from people, and part of that is trust. The number one aspect, I think, when you're selling is you have to get that person to trust you and to have certainty in what you're giving over, and you're helping them buy. And part of that is by being a specialist in your field. Part of that trust and credibility that you're building up is because that person really believes that you are going to help them. But I like to split it into two sides. And I think that we exist as salespeople for two different things. One is to help someone buy, and the other is to sell. And I think they are two different things completely. What do I mean by helping someone buy? Helping them transact. They know what they know already. Right? In the age of SaaS, in the age of the internet, in the old days when I was working at Oracle, and I actually still think it applies today. Does anyone actually know what Oracle sell? No. They sell databases. They used to sell databases. They sell solutions. They sell massive problems and big technology to all of it. Right? But it's complicated. And in the old days, no one would be able to find out that information. No one would be able to go to Lusha's website and see what we do, how much we charge. Today, I can go on G2 Crowd, I can look up the prices, I can see what you do, I can see the reviews, I can ask my friends, I can find out more information in 5 minutes on the internet than it used to take me 4 hours of sales calls to have. I mean, by the way, this applies to everything that you want to do. I saw a painting. Anyone seen the show Stissel? It's a great show if you haven't watched it on Netflix. I saw the painting, I really liked the painting. Within 5 minutes, I knew who the artist was. I'd reached out to him on Facebook Messenger. I'd found out that the painting is sitting in the producer's office, got her name and contact details, and she doesn't want to sell the painting. But you can find out a huge amount of information very, very quickly, and the whole world has changed from that standpoint. So actually, customers are coming into the cycle, the buying cycle, and there's loads written about this, but they're coming into the buying cycle way, way, way later. Way later than they ever used to. And as a sales guy, you used to have a really simple funnel because you could drip feed information, right? Oh, you want to know the pricing? No problem, tell me something first. You could negotiate all the way through and slowly drip feed the information that the customer needed. I don't know who the competitors are. Oh, have a look at these two. I'm feeding them the information that I wanted to feed them. That doesn't exist anymore. And therefore, actually, sales has evolved slightly where you're just buying. In some circumstances. I'm going to talk about a few different types of sale, but there is a type of sale where the person is coming just to buy something. The other sale is you're actually still selling, meaning you're helping people understand their problems and how to solve them. And what's very interesting about selling is, again, we're now in a situation, we're now in a world where every company cannot survive and knows they cannot survive just by doing what they do today. And they know that if they just do what they do today, they're going to be disrupted. They're going to have a problem. They're going to become the next Kodak, the next Blockbusters. They're going to be dead. And therefore, they know they have to do something. And that applies to every job, every company, every business. The problem is they don't really know what they don't know. And they don't know what to do. And they don't even know what their problem is. But something motivated them that morning to pick up the call and go, that's a really cool technology, whatever it is. I'll ping them an email. I'll find out more. I'll watch a demo. But they don't actually know what their problem is. Therefore, your job is to start selling them. Your job is to start moving them. They're not ready to buy. No, they're nowhere near ready to buy. When they are ready to buy, by the way, they will do a lot of research before they buy. But you're still selling. And you have to understand how that sales has evolved and how that sales has changed. But, and this is the key to, in my opinion, the 4 different types of sale, you need to understand who your customer is and where they are. Are they buying or are they selling? Are they transacting, or are they still in problem discovery? Are they in problem identification? Are they actually at the point where they're ready to hear more? And that will change and evolve the way that you actually sell them. Now, these are 2 excerpts. I don't know whether you can see them particularly well. They were taken on my phone. I apologize. They're taken from a book called The Blueprint of SaaS Organization by a guy called Jacco van der Kool. The book is incredibly expensive for the 50 pages or so that it is, but it's a brilliant book that outlines what a SaaS sales organization should be and how SaaS has evolved the way of traditional sales. Now, it's interesting because I'm looking in the room, a lot of people here don't even know what a license sale is, okay? A license sale was what technology used to be sold as. A license sale, if you will, was we used to sell a perpetual software license. That meant that when you bought the rights to use a database license, it was forever, right? And it was very expensive, and as long as you paid your 22% support and maintenance every year, you would be sent the patches and the updates to make sure that this product still worked. Okay, and it was incredible. Do you know why? Because we had something amazing. It was called shelfware. There were companies that spent millions of dollars on technology that was never deployed. Never deployed. And you know what was amazing for software companies? You didn't have to worry about churn. Churn was irrelevant because the company had invested and they bought in, it was done. SaaS changed all of that because SaaS meant that now it was incredible because you can update, people don't even know what release cycles are anymore because they just happen, right? Software just updates automatically. It's all in the cloud and everyone just uses it whenever they want. And actually they've shifted the entire model to subscription, and the subscription is going to eat the whole world. And actually when you think about subscription, it's an incredible business if you have a good product. If it's sticky enough, subscription is awesome. And as sales guys, it's changed the way that we work as well. Because we're no longer able to sell something and leave it. We're no longer able to do a deal and never have to worry about it again as a business. And that created a very different challenge and a very different way of selling. It meant that in the old days, yes, I could run a POC, but it was very limited. And by the way, to run the POC, I needed to invest in the servers and the hardware and the people and everything else just to run a proof of concept. Today, if your product lends itself to it, your proof of concept should be able to be done very, very simply. And as this is a room full of salespeople and not founders, I'm not going to talk about the pros and cons and how to structure your POCs and things like that. What I will talk about is the fact that the sales process has changed. In the old day, you could take a very linear funnel, right? Contacted, qualified, demo, proposal, close. It ran through a very, very structured system. You drip-fed the information and you went as you went. The way that Jacko describes the new aspect, the new sales, if you will, is it's pretty much a mess, right? They'll become aware of you. They'll do their own education, which could be a big part of it. They'll then select a few. They'll go back. They'll go forward. They'll try. They'll stop. And it's incredibly frustrating as a sales guy as well, because you think you're moving forward in the process, then they stop, they go back, they go forward, and they're just, behind the scenes, by the way, they're finding out a ton of different information that you have no control over either. So it's very, very difficult to understand where you are in that process as well. And it's moved from being, I would say, salesperson-centric to customer-centric. Now, that's very good for the customer, and it's very good for the industry, and actually I think it's very good for us as salespeople that we're there to help people, and we're there to make sure that they're getting what they need and they're ready to integrate. And I think, I promised I wouldn't show sales clips. I know other people are. I'm sure you'll see this over and over again. ABC, Glengarry, Glen Ross. Everyone seen Glengarry, Glen Ross? If you haven't, go and watch Glengarry, Glen Ross. Incredible film, ABC, old school sales. Always be closing, right? But I actually think that the ABC of sales has changed. I think it's evolved. And I really like the way that Daniel Pink, who wrote a great book called Drive about motivation, he wrote another great book called To Sell is Human. And he redefined the ABC of selling from always be closing to attunement, buoyancy, and clarity. And I'll kind of help you understand them, but he said, everybody's a sales guy. Everybody's trying to move someone. Everybody is trying to get someone to see things from their point of view. The first one is attunement. Get out of your own head, right? See it from the other person's perspective. Find common ground, connect with the seller, connect with the customer, and be customer-centric. You want to see it from their opinion. You, in essence, do not represent your company. You do not represent your product. You do not represent your commission check. You represent them. And as long as you believe that there is value in what you're selling and it's a good fit for the customer, you can get on the same page with them by being empathetic, by relating to their problems, by doing what you need to do. The second one is buoyancy. And this, I think, is actually more about character and probably the most subjective piece within all of it, which is you will get knocked down as a sales guy. You will get people that won't respond to your emails. You will get people that won't respond to your phone calls. And you have to keep that momentum up. You will get deals that are closed lost, that disappear. You'll get customers that just won't send you the PO on time. It will happen. There's nothing you can do about it. And you have to have that energy and that positivity that you need as a sales guy in order to keep going. The last one is clarity, and I actually think this is one of the most important ones. The sales need to move from just giving information, from accessing information, to curating it. And this is where things like content marketing come in. This is where things like sending the customer the right piece of information, sending them something that's going to give them value. I'll give you an example for Lusha. One of the big things that I want to change at Lusha is I don't want us just to say, hey, it's a piece of contact information. This is awesome. I want to talk about how you're going to do your outbound strategy. I want you to think about how you're going to do your inbound strategy. I want you to think about what is your strategy for data integrity within your CRM? And I want to have white papers. I want to be the thought leader in that space. And this is where things like social selling come in. This is where things like being able to be a expert in your field, a specialist in what you're selling, come to market. Giving the customer more clarity. If you're making things more confusing than what they've already seen online, and if you're contradicting what they've already seen online, which I find a very big problem when it gets to pricing and closing. If they're seeing something online that says the price is $50 and you're sent them a quote for $500,000, there's a mismatch unless you've been very, very clear as to why it's different. So giving them more clarity, not more confusion, is very important. Now, I want to try and define it as basically 4 different types of sales, and you may agree or disagree. This is just something that I've been thinking of. Transactional, solution, consultative, and relationship. Transactional sale is where the person is literally just buying. Solution is where there's a big solution. Consultative, you're giving a consultation within the sale and relationship, which I think actually applies to all of them. But I'm running a little bit short on time, so I'm going to keep moving faster. Transactional sales is often a commodity, right? The customer knows what they want. By the way, this can still be a very big ticket item. I've put a pharmacist there because the example I like to use is I've got a headache, I need a Panadol, I need an Acamol. It's pretty straightforward. I walk into a pharmacy, I buy an Acamol, I walk out. It's a transactional sale. And everyone thinks there's nothing you can actually sell within that. You're just helping someone buy. The customer knows their problem, they've decided on the solution. It can be any dollar size. An example being DocuSign. How many people here use DocuSign? We all do. Do you know how much revenue EchoSign that sold to Adobe is now bringing in a year in revenue? DocuSign, I just saw, is now at 850 million ARR. Just for signatures, electronic signatures at the end of a document. And it's a completely transactional sale, in my opinion. By the way, I think a lot of the deals I was doing at Oracle back in the day, which were millions of dollars big, they were transactional sales. And I remember specifically one of the guys telling me, Andrew, which is my English name, he goes, Andrew, this isn't real sales. We're just transacting. Now, I do believe within a transaction, you can still have a sale, and I think even within a transaction sale, which is something that I've been talking to my team about, even within a transaction sale, there are elements of sales that can be done. I'll give you an example, and the example I like to run through is the idea of selling a Panadol, right? You can enable the transaction whilst continuing to sell. You cannot block it. You cannot stop the person buying. They've made the decision they want to buy this item, so you have to let them buy it. But you can ask a couple of very, very quick questions. So just to give you an example, hey, I've got a headache. I'd like a Panadol. What type of headache you got? Sharp or throbbing? How long have you had the headache for? By the way, you look like you're in a hurry. You going somewhere? 3 very simple questions. And I can immediately turn around and say, actually, you don't need the Panadol. You need the fast-acting Nurofen because you've got a throbbing headache, which has been going for a while. It's long-lasting and it's fast relief. Oh, and by the way, it's only 5 shekel more. I've just upsold. I've just sold instead of just allowing the transaction to happen whilst not blocking the transaction. So don't be a blocker. Over-exceed on expectations. But you are usually selling to the person, not the company. You're usually not at the stage at a transactional sale where everybody knows it's a problem. So you don't need to start deeply relating to the company's needs. Everyone knows they need DocuSign, right? By the way, the reason to buy DocuSign is because on the last day of the quarter, the guy who needs to sign it is on a beach somewhere and can't get to a fax machine. Actually, that problem's huge, and it's worth a lot. But everyone knows they need it. Everyone knows they should buy it. Everyone trusts the technology already. It's a transactional sale. The next one, and this is the most common type in SaaS, is solution sales. Okay, and I've put up Sandler and Spin and Challenger because I think most of these are based on the premise of someone has a problem, you have to discover what that problem is, you have to understand it, you have to make it bigger, you have to unpeel the onion. But the first question I would always ask in a solution sale, and I think, by the way, 90% of SaaS sales is a solution sale problem. Right? It is, some founder in Israel said, hey, I have a big problem doing this. How do we fix it? I make a solution. And that's it. Now the question is how big that problem is. Does everyone really have that problem? Do you really want that problem to be solved? And by the way, sometimes the answer to that problem may not be just a nice dashboard and a UI that replaces Excel. But does the customer even know that they have that problem? How do they do things today? It's the most common type of sale in SaaS, I think, and I think it's the most easiest to be really, really good at as well. And I think one of the best people on solution sales was actually Jordan Belfort. And I don't think people would really have judged it as solution sales because Jordan Belfort, in essence, wasn't selling stocks. He was selling the dream of being rich. The person's problem was everybody else was getting rich in the market and you weren't, right? So the solution to that was invest with me in someone that you can trust. And I think there's a whole bunch, and we'll send this deck out afterwards, but when you look at the film, my favorite scene in Wolf of Wall Street is sell me the pen, right? And the guy turns around to him, he knew the trick of sell me the pen, and he turned around to him and he goes, write something. You can't sell something without a need. You can't sell something without a problem on a solution sale. And I think that it's a very important aspect. The last one I would talk about is consultative sale. So in consultative sales, I think this is where you get into the $100 million mark. And the reason why I put up a Mercedes-Benz sales guy is very often people don't even think that's a consultative sale, but it can be. If you build the right relationship and want to make sure that the guy knows it. The holy grail is to become a trusted advisor. Now, I had a big argument with my first enterprise sales job interview I was interviewing with a guy called Dermot O'Leary, heads up Oracle for UK and Ireland. And he said, I put on a slide, I said, my goal is to become trusted advisor status. And he goes, do you really believe you're going to be trusted advisor by the customer? Do you really think that you are not coming from an angle of what you're selling and you can actually be a trusted advisor? And I said, when it comes to Oracle, when it comes to the product that I'm selling, to my specific company, I should be your trusted advisor. If you know that you want to work with this company, I am the guy to help you do it. And I'm the guy to help create that win-win within the market so that we can both gain beneficially from it, both your company and the person that you're selling to. But at a consultative level, you need to be as good as the C-level in that company. And you need to understand that company. You need to do your homework well. You need to know what their real problems are. And finally, I believe every salesperson has a really good fake laugh, right? We all have it. It's all on the phone. It's really easy to spot. Sometimes you don't even realize you're doing it. You think it's a genuine laugh. It's not. Okay? And you can use relationship selling just to get a deal done, right? Especially if it's more transactional. Ultimately, I think relationship sales goes across all of them. I think all of them mix into each other. But I